Imagine the scenario. An 8-year-old bursts through the front door, throws their backpack, and begins sobbing because of a math test. Instinctively, most of us reach for a phrase we think will help. Just calm down, honey, it's only a test. Instead of a reset, these words usually act as an accelerant. The crying gets louder, the fists clench tighter, and the meltdown reaches a new level of intensity that feels impossible to reach with words. This escalation isn't a sign of defiance or a failure of discipline. In school-aged children, the brain structures required to manage these big emotions are still physically developing, leaving them prone to overwhelming behavioral challenges. To a brain already in distress, being told to stop often feels like being left alone in the middle of a storm. This perceived dismissal keeps the emotional alarm system firing, preventing the body from finding a way back to a resting state. At this stage, trying to apply logic is functionally useless. The machinery required to process a rational command simply isn't running, making it physically impossible for the child to follow a verbal instruction. Deep inside the brain is the amygdala, a structure that functions like a hyperactive security guard. Its primary job is to scan for danger and trigger a survival response, fight, flight, or freeze, the moment it detects a threat. The glowing alarm is the amygdala. The solid shield is the prefrontal cortex. Dr. Dan Siegel calls a meltdown flipping your lid. Under stress, this shield hinges upward. With the lid flipped, the amygdala takes control, sending survival hormone waves down the neck for an emergency. This survival circuit is incredibly fast, processing information about 20 milliseconds before the rational brain can evaluate the situation. The physical reaction, the racing heart and sweaty palms, is well underway before the child can consciously think. This is why reasoning fails. With the prefrontal cortex physically offline, the brain is biologically incapable of receiving a logical message, no matter how calmly it is delivered. We often attempt what is known as top-down regulation, using language, rules, and logic to try and force the body into a state of calm. But top-down methods require a functioning prefrontal cortex. During a meltdown, trying to use logic is like trying to teach a complex math lesson to someone being chased by a predator. This split screen shows the difference. On the left, top-down words bounce off the barrier of a flipped lid. On the right, we see bottom-up strategies. These use physical sensations and smooth waveforms that travel up from the body to soothe the alarm center directly. Bottom-up strategies bypass the disconnected logical brain. They speak the only language the amygdala understands during an emergency, the language of physical safety and sensory grounding. Before a parent can address the behavior through conversation, they must first settle the child's biology by providing a sense of security. Because a dysregulated child lacks the internal ability to settle themselves, they rely on the nervous system of a calm adult to guide their body back to a resting state, a process known as co-regulation. This requires the parent to act as the anchor. Note how this parent is taking a slow, deep breath and dropping their shoulders to physically regulate their own body before they ever try to interact with the child. This regulated energy, the soft tone and lowered posture, signals to the child's amygdala that the immediate environment is secure, allowing the alarm response to finally begin to de-escalate. This works because of the effort paradox. The harder we try to suppress or fix the panic, the more we drain the mental resources needed to cope. Simply permitting the emotion to exist allows the stress response to complete its cycle and metabolize naturally. The parent's physical presence serves as the necessary bridge. By providing a calm, steady external environment, the child's survival system can stand down, allowing the logical brain to finally come back online. Once the child's body begins to settle, you can introduce the name it to tame it technique to help reconnect the brain's two systems. Labeling the emotion forces the brain to re-engage the prefrontal cortex. This simple act of identification pulls activity away from the reactive amygdala and back into the analytical, thoughtful side of the brain. Swap the command to calm down with a script that prioritizes connection. Try saying, I can see this is hard for you, and I am right here with you. The shift is visible. The hands uncurl, the shoulders drop, and the breaths become deeper. These are the physical signs that the lid has successfully flipped back down. Self-regulation is a biological process that requires a foundation of connection. Once a child feels safe enough to stand down, the capacity to settle follows as a natural